Excuse me, sir. Do you know what time it is? I'd like to know what the time is. Oh, I do hope I know what the time is.
Number you have dialed.
And now, somewhere in Cape Town, South Africa, it's hashtag beer time.
Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Hashtag Beer Time. This is a social media themed episode, if we can call it that. We had Dean from Insta Eats and Ross from White on Rice. We got to try some tasty beers. 2 of them were from the Devil's Peak Explorer series, Cut and Run and Dead Reckoning. We also got to try 3 American beers, 21st Amendment Brewery Hull or High Watermelon, Westbrook Brewery Key Lime Pie Goza, and the Prairie Artisan Ales Paradise Imperial Stouts. We got to geek out about social media, being first to market and early adopters. We raised an interesting question: is Newland Spring, owned by SAB, a craft brewery? We also spoke about my recent trip to USA and what the beers are like over there. And then finally, we got to speak about what we feel is the most important thing you need when starting a craft brewery in South Africa. Right, I'll let you get on with the show. It's a nice long show and we really do have a fantastic time. Without further ado, I'll let you enjoy it. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just gone 12 o'clock, and 12 o'clock on a Tuesday means one thing and one thing only. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Hashtag Beer Time with me, T-Bone Troy. I'm back. Super excited to be in the studio. Oh, I haven't played my intro because I've got this other cool song that I discovered. So we're going to play that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tuesday. It's time for beer. I know you've missed me. I hope you've missed me. The song playing in the background is TV on the Radio, Wolf Like Me. Awesome song. Guys, got some awesome guests in the studio. We've got an all-time favorite. He's been in the studio before, once I think. Ross from White on Rice. It's good to have you back in the studio.
Thank you for having me, T-Bone Troy.
Well, thank you. How was that intro? That was okay. A little bit rusty, a little bit shaky.
We here to drink beer, bro.
We don't care about the formalities. And then, of course, we've got a new guest on the show who's going to shed some light on a lot of things, and we're going to hopefully exchange a bit of knowledge.
Yeah, and some beer, hopefully.
And some beer.
I've got an empty glass here. I don't know why, but I'm hoping that it'll get full pretty quickly.
Dean from, can I say Dean from
Insta Eats?
Insta Eats?
That's
That's how people know you.
That's probably how people know me, yeah.
Well, guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's just test your mics there. It seems like we're good.
Yeah?
We're good.
Okay, thank you very much, music.
Seems you have a social media vibe going on here today.
I'm glad you picked that up because I think to start with the beers, we're going to start with we've got a bit of a social media thing going with our beers, so I'm excited. Let me just get my things in a line here.
Yeah, I think
it's been a month since I've been on, so I'm a little bit rusty, but guys, what do we do first? Ross, can you remind me, what do we do first on the show?
I think we've said hello, so now we've got to crack open something. One of how many? What are we dealing with today, Troy?
Guys, we've got, okay, this is cool. We've got beers that I don't think anyone's tried before.
in the world? Or in South Africa?
Definitely
in the studio?
Definitely in the studio. Definitely in this combination. I know that I've probably tried 2 of these beers, and we've got 3 beers from the States, and we've got 2 local beers.
That's interesting. I want to know, how did you get the beers from the States?
Let's crack open a beer. Because I'm thirsty.
What are we starting with?
Parched.
Guys, we've got 2 beers, and these are the new Devil's Peak Explorer Series beers. I don't know if you've seen them. From what I understand, Devil's Peak are now producing beer in the UK. And I think
so. Are they producing it in the UK, or producing it here and sending it to the UK?
90% sure that they're producing it in the UK.
Oh wow, okay.
and these were one of a few beers, two of a few beers, but they've got the juicy pale ale. It's called Cut and Rum, and then they've got the juicy IPA, Dead Reckoning. So these are very different labels from what you've seen.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't.
How many beers do you think they drank before they designed those labels?
I'm pretty sure they must have drank stuff and done other stuff just to get to this point.
To get to that point, yeah, because they're pretty.
They're pretty far out.
Far out.
We're going to try the pale ale first because I don't know what. I'm just so bloody excited. Now, excuse me. I know I have a bottle opener somewhere here.
Are you feeling in your head for a bottle opener?
I think I've spoken about it on the show before, but I don't know why these earphones have a bottle opener. How weird is
That's
that?
amazing. Is that
It's meant to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. Is that like a beer? Did you get that specially designed for you?
No. My mom actually got it for Christmas about 5 years ago. And
Oh wow, that's pretty. It's something you should maybe look into. Ooh.
Oh my word. Okay, so guys, do you have any idea when they say juicy, do you have any idea what that means?
Well, assume that there's juice or like fruit, some type of fruit in it.
So I think it stems from the. Let me pour. Flip it! I can't wait. I'm gonna pour and describe stuff to you guys. It comes from the New England IPA style of beer, where it's very cloudy. You can see it's very cloudy.
Yeah,
here.
I actually got these beers.
And in most cases, as you said, it's made with a little bit of fruit juice.
It's actually made with a little bit of fruit juice.
Fruit nectar, pulp, whatever you can get your hands on.
Okay, and at what point in the process of making the beer does that get put in? Is it right at the beginning or closer to the end?
No, I would imagine because fruits contain sugar, you'd put it towards the end of the boil, just so. You're definitely racking my brain now, but I would imagine you put it towards the end of the boil or in a secondary cask or secondary fermenter.
Okay.
Just so you don't eliminate any of the sugars that you want.
Okay, so
I stand to be corrected. I could be talking absolute hogwash, which I do normally on the show.
So in terms of, I mean,
Cheers.
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 What
Cheers.
we're looking at here is something it's very cloudy. It's almost got like a, I don't know, like a pear cider sort of look to it. And the nose, I mean, I'm just getting granadilla there.
Really?
Yeah.
Big time.
It's like a mix between granadilla and lychee.
Okay,
Yeah.
you get a bit of lychee, definitely. Yeah, there's.
I don't know if the color also sort of points me towards the lychee and granadilla. It's not as yellow as a granadilla, but more like a lychee sort of color.
So do you think that looking at the color kind of somehow affects what flavor is going to come through?
I think so. It definitely sort of tricks your brain into thinking.
I like to think that
Just
by
smelt
looking
the
at
microphone.
it's going to happen a few times. But by looking at the color of the beer, it should give you a few clues. It shouldn't necessarily indicate with 100% accuracy what you're going to taste, but it certainly gives you a clear indication of what you're going to pick up.
Yeah, this has got it's got quite a nice carbonated sort of finish to it, and also doesn't have that heavy IPA kick at the end of it. So do you agree?
Yes, so I think obviously let me just turn my mic here. Is that better? Test.
There we go.
Test. Is that better? That's better. So, yeah, they obviously they took it one step further with the juicy IPA and the New England IPA and just made it into a pale ale, so something a little bit more sessionable. Yeah, it's essentially becoming like a beer juice. You could argue that, or a fruit beer. There is such a thing as a fruit beer. But yeah, it's just a new style that they're just.
Have you been
Created a bit of craze on.
Have you tasted like a lot of the craft beers in the UK?
I can't say that I have,
Okay.
but I've definitely tried more than the average Joe.
Yeah. So is this sort of like what they drink? Is that sort of, or they just going for something completely out there that they hit the UK market and then and people are like, what is this? You know, like
To state or to say something like the US market or the UK market or the South African market is a very general, broad term.
Yeah.
Like you could say this beer is going to work in the South African market.
Yeah.
But actually, the South African market is lager drinkers.
Yeah.
So, and I think also people have different perceptions about what the UK market is. I still get people today saying, "Oh, but this is an ale. This is from UK. It's going to be flat and warm." And I have to say to them, guys, that's just one style of beer, one type of beer. You've got a whole arrangement of different styles out there. And I think to say that this beer will this beer make it in the market? I mean, it's going to make it in a certain segment of the market. It's going to be aimed towards the beer geeks, the beer aficionados, let's say that correctly, and people who like craft beer. Will it appeal to the majority of Britain? I don't think most craft beer does.
I think a beer like this honestly has.
I'm pretty sure Lucy Corn, if she's listening, she's probably got a few things to say. She's proudly British.
Well, honestly, this beer has got. I mean, generally when I see IPA on the bottle or on the can, it's like, whoa, okay, put your seatbelt on, let's go. And this doesn't really have that. It's got, like you said.
Well, this is a pale ale.
What?
Hey?
Oh, is this the pale ale?
We're trying the pale ale. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Only if I could read. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I'm just like, this does not taste like an IPA. It's because it's not an IPA.
We all have certain powers, you know.
Yeah.
I struggle to pronounce and say words. You guys.
I struggle to read words.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what mine is, but I'm really liking this beer.
Well, it's the same as everyone else's, so. But I do think that a beer like this, I know it's maybe someone needs to come up with a different name for it, because in terms of like when you say pale ale, it's like, okay, it's an ale.
Yeah.
But if you call it fruit beer, people are going to go, ooh, what's a fruit beer?
Yeah.
Just on a marketing level.
Sure.
You could easily put this into, like, I mean, if you think about, this is not that far, I mean, I'm probably going to get damned by the beer gods, but this is not that far off something. Do you remember like Bacardi Breezer? Or no.
This is Ross speaking.
I don't.
Hashtag beer time does not.
All I'm saying,
supports, yeah.
All I'm saying is that it's a lot closer to that than it is to like a stout or something that's.
No, for
or
sure.
ale.
I see what you're saying, and yes, it is a hot summer drink. You're going to have it as a cooler, as a refresher, and I mean, I'm certainly going to smash a few of these.
Exactly.
And they're made to have a few. They're made to be drunk.
The only problem is that the UK doesn't get much summer, so I don't know how enjoyable it's going to be, but I'm sure they'll find an oven or something to.
I'm sure they'll find
enjoy it
something.
in.
No, but Ross, is true. They could be, and I think it's also a very clever marketing thing. Where they trying to tap that market where you do get your people who still drinking your Savannahs, your Bacardi Breezes, who still think that a beer is a lager.
Yeah.
And so when they get introduced to this juicy pale ale, or as you say, fruit beer, as you would like to call it, it'll just open up, a whole new market that hasn't been tapped.
And I do think based on, I mean, if you look at the label, it's very different to anything that you've seen in terms of what a beer can or a beer bottle would be. And I think you're seeing a lot of that as well. I mean, when you walk into any bottle store now in South Africa, in Cape Town, that has a lot of craft beer.
Yeah.
Like you walk in there, it's just like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? It's not the traditional like German style, very clean, very like
shield with leaves and hops and barley.
And a dragon, something at the back. And I think that's obviously their marketing tactic, but it does definitely. I think it will definitely attract a different market, and maybe that's their plan. And I do think it is going to work.
I think also the problem is that now we've got so many craft beers, so it's almost like becoming like a wine. When you walk into most people make their decision on how they buy wine on the label.
Sure.
So it's now you're walking into bottle stores that sell craft beer, or you're looking online or whatever, and there's so many that you almost like have to make that decision based on a label. Obviously, you have your sort of, and I also think that a lot of people are making decision on different beers. So a lot of people know, they know the traditional beers, but they're looking, oh, well, I'm going to try craft beer, so I might as well like go all out and try, so I think a lot of people are now trying these different styles or different, adding different things in, just to, to people who are looking to experiment. And I think that's also what's going to this is definitely going to appeal to those type of people.
Well, you touched on an interesting point there with the with the wine category. You know, when I go into a wine store, you know, you do base a lot of it on the gold stickers and the label
Yeah.
and what you're going to see, purely because I'm not that well educated in the beer in the wine industry.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine it's the same for someone who's not
Yeah.
educated in the beer industry. They're going to walk in, and they're going to, the majority of their choice options, or on what they're going to choose, is going to be based on the label. So, I suppose you know you touched on another point there where you find in another category. You're still
Yeah.
going to get your craft beer drinkers
Yeah,
and
yeah.
your beer nerds who are beer geeks, should I say,
Yeah.
who know Devil's Peak,
Yeah.
who are going to buy that anyway.
Yeah.
But now you've got a whole new segment. So yeah, I've been stressing it for a long time. You need to have your
Point of differentiation.
identity waxed and your labels
Yeah.
slick.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, also Devil's Peak is obviously one of the bigger craft breweries.
Yeah.
And I think they're also now trying to compete with the sort of upstarts who are coming out with these funky labels and these interesting styles, you know, who have the ability, because they're making in much smaller batches rather than Devil's Peak, who are having to make big batches of things. So they struggle to sort of experiment. So I think they're trying to get back to that sort of, you know, garage style experimentation. I
Yeah,
think Ross can
they-
speak on that as well.
I mean, not just these two labels that we're seeing here. You know, they've got that whole other series that they had, the Juicy Lucy.
Yes, yeah.
And the Grapefruit Express.
Yeah. Those did really well.
Where they're getting artists to draw these
design
designers'
labels.
labels.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just Devil's Peak it seems like they're not putting any steps wrong. They're just paving ways, that they're just creating new and exciting ways to drink beer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a big fan.
I think it's so cool that they are reaching out to creatives and just getting people, because obviously, I mean, from their point or from their side, it's like, we need to sell beer. Cool.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to sell beer? Well, one way of selling beer is to get people in a specific industry or whatever, so artists and creatives and people doing different stuff, to just like, cool, do you like beer? Yeah. Do you want to design the label? Yeah, go for it. Cool. And come up with something that's quite crazy, because then it taps into that market. Not like artists and creative people are the only people drinking craft beer, but they will definitely find ways of interpreting the beer in a way that's going to be sellable and it's going to put it out there. But at the end of the day, I mean, the market, I think that for any beer, the market will find the beer. You know, it often happens where you put something out and it's just like, we're aiming at those people. And you look again, you've just got these like 16-year-old, or maybe not 16-year-olds, but like, 18-year-olds,
Yeah.
whatever, 25-year-old schoolboys or whatever, are all like, this is the beer that they want. Or one small little town in the bottom of South Africa or whatever that just loves the beer for whatever reason. And I just think it's an awesome thing to be, to watch this whole thing happen, this whole creative, like, well, cool, let's just create some cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's more than just putting pen to paper and creating like a nice drawing. They've got from what I gather, they've got a seriously like jacked up marketing strategy. One thing that they do well is they create a bit of hype around launching a product. They say, I don't know, for example, you can only get this style of beer available here. Or
And
at
you're
these
speaking
places.
specifically about Devil's Peak now.
I'm speaking specifically about Devil's Peak, just in terms of where you can purchase a product and look at this and try and they're very active on their social media. In terms of guess the label, guess the product, win this, and so they're definitely doing some exciting stuff. One thing that they have done, which we spoke about it briefly, is I'm not too sure on it, but they've launched some form of currency. It could be a currency or a token system. They had a get together, I think, last week with some beer fundies, and it's very secretive. I wasn't invited.
You're not bitter at all.
No. I say that for the beer. No. I was actually busy sun tanning. No, but they. So I don't know what's going on there, but from what I gather, I think they're launching they're playing with the whole cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And they've actually made these.
So is it
made these coins, physical coins.
Okay.
And I'd imagine you would be able to use
Collect
those
them and
to purchase beer.
Yeah. That's quite cool, taking the sort of cryptocurrency but making it like a physical physical thing, as opposed to, having it online, which is kind of merging the sort of old world, like collecting tokens,
And again,
the new world cryptocurrency thing. And
they just incorporate in a different kind of
Yeah, it's a different angle. completely.
markets,
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they started, I don't know,
anything and everything.
tagging along with. I mean, they've done. I've just seen a lot of their marketing on
Yeah.
bike races and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I'm thinking about manga comics. Those Japanese comics.
Yeah. Well,
that
it is,
also-
That's a big- that's a big-
I mean,
Have they
they
approached you, Ross?
yeah, that's
No,
actually
not
what I
yet.
wanted to know. Like,
Hey?
I think
I'm waiting
that would
for
be
that.
amazing.
If you're listening and you
Yeah.
need some origami as your label, speak
Yeah.
to me. But I do think that what you say about the manga thing, I've seen beer cans online. These crazy designs, and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it definitely lends itself a lot to that Japanese animation style of just very out there, very striking, very like, okay, but I'm just drinking a lager.
And sorry to interrupt, but the important thing here that I'm trying to get across to people listening, or potential brewers, or someone who's got a craft brewery, if you incorporate your beer, or if you align your beer, it doesn't have to be your whole brewery, but if you align one beer to a popular culture,
Yeah.
or a popular hobby, or anything, however niche or small it is, you'll almost be guaranteed beer sales because of that
audience.
Yeah.
that audience.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that manga. You're going to have people who, in Cape Town, in South Africa, who love manga comics. They're going to go into a bottle store. They're going to see a manga-styled beer label and be like, hey, cool. This is my beer. I'm going to
Yeah.
drink that.
They'll definitely buy the first one for the can, and the second time they buy it will be based on the quality of the beer.
Yeah.
Because if they are looking for beer specifically, it's going to
Yeah.
be like,
Well, that's then the interesting thing is that you can't just make a pretty can or pretty bottle and then have a terrible beer.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
you've got to, I mean, unless you want to just, unless it's something like this where it is a limited run and you just really want to sell once off type thing. But it's also, if you're going to be, if it's going to be like a long-term thing, you need to make sure that the quality is good as well. You can't only have really like a pretty label.
Yeah, exactly. The pretty label's not going to sell. It's going to sell
One.
it's going to sell one or two to
Yeah.
a very select few people. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, but the quality will shine through if it is good,
Yeah,
obviously.
which is one thing that is Devil's Peak. Their beers are fantastic.
Yeah, and
They're not your small little homebrew system.
Yeah.
exactly, and that's obviously why they're experimenting with this sort of stuff, and they're definitely pushing the boundaries in this country. I don't know of any other beer labels or craft. I say craft in inverted commas. Breweries that are doing crazy stuff with cans and bottles.
Anyone who else has done a can of their size is CBC.
CBC, yeah.
There have been some other breweries around the country, but not of the Devil's
No.
Peak.
But CBC,
CBC
keep it rather standard, like in terms of their bottling and labels. They don't.
Yeah, they've had. I mean, they had that. I mean, last year they launched that CBC app, and
Yeah.
which I thought was awesome. They had their own. They launched the whole can and they had this whole marketing campaign, and
Yeah.
it must have cost them a fortune, but also it was just a first for South African beer.
Yeah.
It was just like, cool. I think it was Join the Journey or
Yeah.
What's Your Journey?
Yeah.
I'm butchering that. Sorry, CBC, but much love to you guys.
And also, I don't think that, obviously it's these bigger companies that are able to do it because they've got the money. But
Yeah.
I think if you're starting out your own little homebrew and you want to start selling it, and you a semi-creative person or someone like creative, just go wild because
Yeah.
you don't know. Like, just take another little hobby or interest that you have, like films or wildlife or whatever, and see how you can bring that into the whole beer thing, just to create something different, because that's what people are looking for. And like Dean says, if the quality of the beer is good enough, it will sell, but catch people's attention with a very different style logo.
Why
Yeah.
don't we do some Insta Eats beers?
Yeah, I'm keen.
No one's done like a pasta beer.
Yeah.
Or
Or even just like beer that's designed specifically for a certain food.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, there've been people who've designed like pizza beer, like beer that pairs well with pizza.
Who are they and where can I find them?
Yeah.
I can't say.
I mean, that would be amazing. Like, I think also, I think that is, as you're saying, like, I think you've got to, you might as well, if you're starting out, you might as well, you're putting money into investing in the actual beer, you might as well put in a bit more money and invest in branding and your marketing and your logo and your
Biggest
the
mistake.
look and feel.
Biggest mistake new breweries in South Africa make today is not putting a budget aside for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
For marketing.
For marketing
Really?
Yeah.
and corporate identity.
But it doesn't have to be complicated. Like as you can see with Devil's Peak, like all it requires is something new and something fresh and something interesting, and it'll catch people's
Got a bit
attention.
of a SpongeBob SquarePants feel to it.
It does. I'm trying to figure it out.
Seaweed and like triangles, and it's very like trippy.
But honestly, that style, like as a vector illustrator art style at the moment is very popular.
Yeah.
Extremely. Like there's like 4 artists I can name now that are local artists that have a similar vibe to that. And you can be like, oh yeah, you can, maybe they didn't draw inspiration from that, but it's definitely fitting into what's current. And the joy of what they're doing now is like they can rip the label off and put something else on there. So when that fades, what's the next thing?
Sure. Yeah, this is the Explorer series, so they
Explorer series. There we go.
exploring. Guys, I was going to move on to a different beer, but
Different style. of
I
beer.
was thinking about saving the juicy IPA from the Dead Reckoning from Devil's Peak, saving it for later, but I want us to compare it side by side, just so you guys can see the level up in terms of hoppiness.
Okay, so this
intensity.
one, this is an IPA now.
This is now an IPA. The
Aha.
first one we had was 5%. This is now 7%.
Okay. So they've kept the juicy element as well. So this is
yes.
going to have some type of fruity characteristic.
And they've got just they've got ingredients: water, malt, hops, yeast, and it's got lactose here.
So we've got a bit of a almost like a milk stout,
milky
something,
vibe. Yeah. So we'll see if that sweetness comes through.
So if you're vegan, this is not for you.
Yeah.
I found out the other day that
Sorry for you.
most beer is vegan. That's amazing.
Well,
If you're a vegan, of
yeah,
course.
it's weird. Like it's weird. Some of the things you don't expect to have milk in, like some of the water made by Nestle tastes very milky. I don't know if it's just like the thing, but like, let's give this a try.
Oh, so this definitely got a little bit more color. Not as yellow. It's more orange. Ooh. I'm really like picking up a lot more sweetness, more syrup, like fruit syrups. Do you guys ever remember? Was it Valley of?
Yeah.
The Valley of? I think it was a Hall's drink. It was Valley of Secret.
yes,
something.
yeah,
medley
yes,
of fruit.
yeah.
Medley of fruits, and it was
Yeah.
a 5
There we
liter
go,
container. You had to mix it with
Yes,
water.
yes, yeah.
This, I'm getting that like Secrets of the Valley kind of fruit juice.
Yeah, it's a lot more fruity than.
Perhaps we found out their secret ingredients.
Yeah, maybe they've just taken, bit of malt, bit of yeast,
Some liquid fruit.
liquid
Yeah.
fruit, chuck it in there. Boil it up and see what happens. This is a lot sweeter.
Yeah.
Lot sweeter. I'm trying to pick up that lactose, and I think it comes from there's a bit of silkiness.
Sourness,
There's
yeah.
a bit of silk, a smooth silkiness
Yeah.
that runs off your tongue. Can you pick that up?
But
Yeah.
the sourness in the nose as well. Like you can definitely pick up, like right at the end there, it's got that like, I mean, just for when you smell, it's not quite cheesy, but like milk just before it's about to go like
Yeah.
tits up. You get that like, whoa, I'll drink it, but I'm not gonna leave it for another day in the fridge.
There's also definitely like hint of granadella in this one
Yeah,
too. Like,
even the granadilla pip you can
Yeah.
pick up, and that's
So do you think? Okay, so Troy, being the beer expert that you are, would they have taken this?
What?
The first one we had, the pale ale. Would they have taken? Is it possible that they've just
Yes.
almost
Yes.
done the same thing with the beers? It just extended it, or either added more hops, or
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they would have followed a very similar recipe. The main difference between the pale ale and an IPA is obviously the hop intensity, with
Yeah.
your bitterness and your aroma, and also with the alcohol percentage. This is 2% more than the first beer we had. So 7%. It's pushing the boundaries now of what is sessionable. I know some people out there, Greg Casey, can have about 6 of these IPAs and still be fine.
that's a superhuman quality. That is.
yeah,
That is,
that's
yes.
a superhuman quality.
6 IPAs.
Yeah.
Damn.
So the yeah, so this IPA, they would have added more hops. They would have added that alcohol comes from the sugar, the grain bill. So they would have added more malts, more sugars.
Yeah.
And
would they have brewed this like from scratch as a juicy IPA, or would they have taken their original IPA and the original pale ale and mixed fruit into that?
would have to ask them, but I would
Yeah.
imagine they would have started from scratch.
Yeah.
They would have used a pretty much similar technique and recipe in terms of adding the juice, in terms of dry hopping. That's where you add the hops right after primary fermentation. So
Yeah.
your sugars have been eaten, and there's a little bit of alcohol in the mixture, in the beer, but now you want to add more hop aroma. So you put in a whole bunch of hop cones or
Yeah.
hop pellets, and then that just extracts all the lupulin oils, which is the oil found on the hop plant, and that just extracts all those oils and puts it into the beer. So you get that very aromatic,
Nose, yeah.
aromatic nose.
And would that boost the alcohol at all? Not. So,
Alcohol comes from the yeast eating the sugar. That sugar comes from the malt.
so would you stop the fermentation process earlier or let it sit for longer if you wanted more alcohol in the beer?
The yeast can only eat the sugars that are there.
Okay, so the more sugar.
Without getting too complicated, you get a whole bunch of different sugars like monosaccharides and polysaccharides.
Dextrose and
Exactly, and again, I'm a little bit rusty on this, but from what I know is that the yeast can only eat certain sugars like the monosaccharides. They can't break down the big ones, and
so the more big ones there are in the fermentation, or during the fermentation process, the sweeter it will be. If the yeast can't eat those sugars, it just leaves them in there and leaves the beer sweeter.
exactly. So, for example, in this beer, they've added lactose, which is a sugar. It's a milk sugar, and that is a very complex sugar which the yeast cannot eat.
Aha, so that'll leave like
So
a
that
bit
leaves
of sourness, but also sweetness.
Not the sourness.
Okay, sweetness. Yeah.
It will leave a sweetness and that coating, that slick coating on your tongue. So
Almost
that's
creamy, eh?
creamy.
Okay.
Yeah, it is meant to be a little bit milky smooth.
Definitely get that milky that smoothness.
So yeah, if you wanted more
Absolutely.
alcohol, you would add a fermentable sugar. You would
Okay.
add more, and I mean, you could add more malt, but that might make the body a little bit thicker. Some people do cheat, well, not cheat, but they do just add table sugar. You could also add a cheaper sugar like corn syrup, and that kind of just pushes up the alcohol. You could just add vodka if you wanted.
Are there vodka beers?
I've added vodka to a beer before.
And what is the result?
It's you put it in purely for raising the alcohol.
Yeah.
That's it. You can't. I mean, if you've got 20 liters of beer and you add 1 liter of vodka, you're not gonna pick up the vodka taste.
Yeah.
So is it,
it's just adding the alcohol.
do you think it's possible to do, where you just have like a malt drink, just a very sweet sugary malt drink? You don't
Yes.
send it through any sort of fermentation
Yes.
process. Add alcohol to it. Add
It's called maltose,
maltose.
and it's more popular than Coca-Cola in Africa.
Wow.
Really?
So it's not
It's massive.
alcohol.
And you heard it here on #BeerTime. I am hoping to produce something like that.
Aha. Nice.
So there's no alcohol at all in it.
None.
None. So it's basically a beer, or non-alcoholic beer, but
It's like the wort. The
Yes.
wort, which is that unfermented sugar water that you get after mashing your beer. So you get your hot water and you mix it with the crushed grain. You let it sit for an hour, and after seeping in all that concoction, you get the sweet liquid called wort, W-O-R-T.
interesting.
And then they just cool that, bottle it.
It's tasty. Tasty AF, I'll tell you that. We tried the first time we brewed. We tasted
is.
that, and it was delicious. Just the sweet, malty, like
So we brewed about a month ago, hey?
we did.
Dean, not sure if you know, but
I've heard a little bit. I'm still waiting for my sample to arrive
for the invites,
on my
yeah.
doorstep.
we started a little bit of a beer club, homebrew club.
We're
Yeah.
just busy with the packaging and labeling. Yeah.
Okay, well, I hope you took my advice. Very important.
It's got to be striking.
I
Gotta
don't know.
look good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to make the post.
It's got to be able to go up on my Instagram page.
It's might not make it anyway.
Oh, okay.
It might not leave the brewery. It's all going to be drunk.
But it was fun making the beer, I'll tell you that.
Guys,
What-
not to get sidetracked
Yeah.
going into homebrew, which I do want to talk about, but what are our thoughts on this beer?
I think I
it's-
prefer the first one.
This isn't a
Normal
this isn't,
IPA.
this is not like the King's Blockhouse where it's hoppy and fruity and bitter. Like to a lot of people, it's just really bitter. But this is, I feel that they're making these more sessionable.
More sessionable, yeah. You can sit and drink, like, honestly, like, six of these, I'll be done for the day, but I'd rather have 6 of these than 6. Well, look, not which I'd rather have, but what state I'm going to be in at the end of the session if I have 6 Blockhouse IPAs. There's a massive difference. And it's not even about the alcohol percentage. You can feel that there's this is a lighter beer.
Yeah.
It's easier to drink.
Much easier to drink
Yeah.
for sure.
And
Yeah.
it actually leaves you wanting more. You're like, oh, shit, oh, man, it's done.
Especially on like a hot summer's day. So I think it's yeah, as you say, like it's a quite novel way to make beers more sessionable, more drinkable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm gonna be very interested to see how it does in the UK, not knowing anything about what's currently popular there, but
Well, I suppose
yeah.
the beauty of having 2 breweries is that you can see or 2 markets, you can
Yeah.
see where it works.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work here, maybe
Yeah.
try it over there. If it doesn't
Yeah,
work there,
yeah.
try it here. So
Yeah.
So back to what we were speaking about right at the beginning. These 2 beers are being made, as far as you are aware, in the UK. Is that correct?
yes, although I have a funny feeling that these beers were also made, these ones that we have in our hands right now, were made
Here.
here.
But-
Same recipe, same label, just...
But these are limited
Nature.
quantity available in South Africa, and they're not going to be available in South Africa at all going forward
And if they are, they would only be available
by import.
in limited stock,
Yeah.
limited quantities. So if you missed out, then you kind of missed
Yeah.
out.
Which is a
that
pity.
Sucks, man.
But,
Because this is pretty good beer.
But that's a great marketing ploy.
Yeah, that's always the best marketing ploy.
That's what they do in the States. They make X amount of beers, and there's massive hype around it. And I think that's the difference. We can get onto the States and my feelings about the States, but you've got a massive market there.
Yeah,
And if a semi-well-known to well-known brewery launches a beer and they only have 1,000 bottles, and you as a brewer, you as a beer fan, go and queue up or go and try and get that beer and you don't get it, you're going to be pissed off, but you're not going to be pissed off with them. You're going to make a bigger effort next year
Yeah.
to get that beer.
and also it's a good testing ground. You know,
Yeah.
if it fails, well, it was a limited release. If it's successful, you can always brew more.
Yeah.
So I think that also, that's a marketing strategy that a lot of big brands use as well. You always see they have these limited release products, and always sort of the idea is to not be a limited release, but it's a limited release so they can sort of gauge the enthusiasm for the product.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling we're going to see more of these. Yeah, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Me too.
I hope so.
honestly. Everything about it is really cool. It's edgy, it tastes good, left me wanting more.
And you look at the bottle and you're like, what is that? That looks interesting. Why? Like you want to try and figure it out almost.
I'm trying to think of a good song that we could play.
Something edgy.
Something edgy. Well, I've got Ed Sheeran, but that's not edgy, no. Okay.
What about U2? The Edge from U2.
The edgy.
I like you too. Let's see here.
I just got a message from my friend Carl saying, tell Ross to toughen up. 6 Blockhouse is breakfast.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
thank you, Carl. But, yeah, I don't know what you have for breakfast. But,
Yeah,
but
jeez.
that would put me away for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially if you
Maybe.
kick it off. Imagine, 8 o'clock in the morning, cool. Ladies and gents, what can I get you for breakfast?
Some fruit juice.
Fruit juice and 6 Blockhouse
Yeah.
IPA.
Well, yeah, you can have your fruit juice and your IPA all in one. So
Thank
all
you.
they need is some eggs and bacon beer, and then it's sorted.
Thank
eggs,
you, thank
eggs
you,
bacon,
Devil's
and a
Peak.
more coffee, and then you.
Hey,
that's your whole
sorted.
breakfast.
We should go around to their place for breakfast. Hey, we should just go visit them. Just say, how's it? Just get some breakfast.
How's it? Breakfast, please.
Breakfast, please.
6 Blockhouse.
Okay, let's play this song.
Who's doing a bacon beer?
There are a few, Greg and Sean did one at Banana Jam. But
What's this?
let's take a little music break, and then we'll be with you guys in about 5-10 minutes or so. Ciao, ciao. Yeah, we don't patronize here on hashtag beer time, but you need to stop drinking that fizzy light lager.
Nobody's being judged here, but put
Yeah.
down the lager.
No,
Put down the lager.
none of that. We're not having any light fizzy lager. We're having intense beers here on the show.
Interesting beers.
If you have just joined us, you're listening to hashtag beer time with me. Let me say English. Let me speak English at least. With me, T-Bone Troy. We're joined in the studio with Dean from Insta Eats and Ross from White on Rice. Now, I can't believe we went 40 minutes without introducing you guys. Some people might know you, but a lot of people don't. Ross, you've been on the show before. People know you as the origami guy.
The origami guy. Yep, that's me.
Are you happy with that
Look,
description?
right now, Troy, I'm okay with that.
Cool.
We
Okay, wait, you're the cool origami guy.
the cool origami
Yeah.
guy. There we go. Thank you.
Do you
You,
pr-
you
is
said that.
I
not
said
me.
so.
Yeah.
You can use that. And Dean, just tell the people who you are.
So I'm Dean.
Hi, Dean.
I'm a food blogger. So pretty much I go out to restaurants and I taste their food, and I put it up on social media. The platform that I mainly use is Instagram. Very visual based. I'm all about the look and the feel, and making food look good, and introducing people to food that looks good but also obviously tastes good. So mainly on Instagram, and that's it. Basically, in a nutshell, we're a visual food blog.
It's quite a big following. How many people on your Instagram now?
27,000.
And then, Ross, you leading the way.
Yeah, Ross.
Yeah.
120,000. So I think between us, we've got like close to 150. That's
exactly.
pretty cool, guys.
Yeah.
Dean,
I still got a long way to go.
hey,
compared to you guys.
it's about quality.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think that with any social media thing, it's not about how many followers you have. Like, I personally have worked out that it's a lot better to have a smaller, more engaged, more excited following
Yeah.
than it is to have, just like...
Have you read
Hundreds
A
of
Thousand
thousands.
True Fans by Kevin Kelly?
No, I haven't, but I quote that so often. I'm like, yo, you need to get your 1,000 true fans. And I think I heard that from you. And just the kind of, the line alone made a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah.
focusing on your 1,000 true fans, the people that are really dedicated to your
You
brand.
need people who are going to... And I suppose this ties in what we're talking about with Devil's Peak. You need to create 1,000 true fans that are going to do anything to buy a product.
Yeah.
They are going to be the first time consumers. Oh, what's that graph where it goes up and then down? Your early adapters.
Early adopters.
Early adopters, sorry. You got they fall into the early adopters category. And it's because when you focus on those 1,000 true fans, everything else will just fall into place. You'll get your majority of people who come afterwards.
But
No,
also those,
that's,
finding those, 1,000 is a big number.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're starting out with any brand or any, social media sort of project or account, getting those 1,000 people starts with one person. Like
Yeah.
that first person that comments on your stuff and says, hey, I just want to tell you that I really love what you're doing and I think it's awesome.
Is it your mom?
Well, even if it is your mom. But your mom's going to tell, her friends, and she's going to share it on Facebook and Twitter and the whole deal. That's how it started for me, man.
And she's going to
Thanks, Mom.
She's going to invite you for dinner on the comment section.
Yeah.
Mom,
What are you
please
doing
message
later,
me,
boy?
phone me rather.
But it's important because it's that person, and it starts off as one person. I can't remember who that one person was for me, but you connect with the people that are in your little circle, and you just make sure that you look after the relationship. And some of those people might be in China if you're sitting in South Africa, or in London, or in Iceland, whatever. Just look after them. Make sure, and what I mean by that is make sure that they are...
Feel engaged.
Yes, make sure that they feel like they're included. Reply to all their comments and just say thanks for this. And if it gets to the point, I remember, you know what I did? I'll tell you exactly what I did. When I hit 500 followers, I sent my 500th follower a little origami thing that I folded with a thank you very much for being my 500th. Because for me, it was like, cool, that's it. If I get to 600, I'm winning here. And I passed 600 shortly after that. But still, it was just about that. And I did the same thing at 1,000. Yeah, and then I stopped.
Two things. I admire and respect how you get hold of everyone on social media. I think it's great. I like how you treat it as real life, because I think it's weird when someone greets you in the street and you don't greet them back.
Exactly, yeah.
And secondly, yeah, I'm almost at 1,000, so I should probably put together something where, yeah, I like that. Maybe I invite them on the show.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, that's
you're my 1,000 follower. Let's hope they're in Cape Town, or because I'm not going to fly them anyway. But yeah, maybe send them something, paint them a picture.
Whatever you can paint, Troy.
Yeah, I think that is more, and I think the biggest thing is that there's been a sort of a top-down culture that's been created by brands about the numbers and the whole, the audience size. That I think it's the easiest measurement. It's easy to just look at someone's account and be like, okay, well, they've got 100,000, cool, they're big. Rather than actually like drilling down and spending some time and look at their account and be like, okay, well, what's the engagement actually like? But it's not that easy to do that. So I think, and that's the problem, is that this culture has been created where, we just look at that top number, and we don't actually engage with the account and sort of see what's behind, the person behind it, or who's behind it, how's it run, what does the person do, because a lot of times that's where things sort of come unstuck, where people have big numbers and you look at that big number and you're like blown away by it, and then you invest in it and it all comes unstuck.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just the whole.
You can see when someone's bought their followers and stuff like that.
For one, yeah.
In
But
terms of
also-
their per post engagements, how many likes they get as opposed to their.
But also, it also depends. I mean, it's not so much about that. That is definitely an element of it. But you can also see people that have got, 600,000-700,000 followers. Cool. Those are huge numbers. Okay. But if you really look at again, what Dean's saying, like the engagement and whatever, it's just, they could have been people that started off on Instagram early. And there's just this like residual following that they have. It's happened to me as well. I just got featured by I was a suggested user many times, and like the drop off is like, it's crazy. Like you just see it, your following gets to a point and then it just slowly staggers down. Then you get featured again, and it slowly goes up and down. But those people are not necessarily, firstly, the kinds of people that you're going to sell products to, for one.
Yeah.
And there's this like, you're chasing your tail sort of scenario where the brands are paying the influencers to promote their product, but there's no return, so they just do the same thing with another influencer and another one and another one, and it doesn't always work out. Where the brands that are doing it correctly are like, cool, we would like you to create content for us, because they know that your content is good, and it's like, it looks good and people are engaging with it. So give us the content regardless of your following.
Yeah.
Like for me, my perfect client is a client that says to me, Ross, we would love for you to create a little animation for us, or 5 animations over the period of 3 months, and you don't have to do anything on your account. Amazing. Because then it's like, cool, this is the skill I'm being paid to do.
Yeah.
And they know that they're getting good content.
Yeah.
And that's why that account has got to that point, because it was always about, the type of content that was getting put up.
That's also a good thing, is that regardless of the followers, regardless of the engagement, regardless of the numbers, content is still the most important thing. If you're posting regular content that is of an exceptional quality, the followers will come.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, is you've got to be posting regularly, and you've got to be posting good quality content in your sphere, in your industry, because that's the key element of it.
Well, just let's come back to this and the whole thing with social Instagram stories. Let's come back to that. But just at the top of my head before I forget, there's an actual program called the Social Blue Book, where you can actually go and input your social media handles, and it can give you a cost on what you should be charging to potential customers or clients. So for those of you listening and you actually want to know how engaged are you on your social media, what could you charge per post. I mean, I think when I last entered it, I could charge 50 cents a post, which is it's something. It's something.
Is it in dollars? 50-cent dollars?
Yes,
Nice.
So it's
50
$5 rand.
Yeah.
At least 5 rand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with that stuff, sorry, just quickly, a lot of those, that's just based on engagement and whatever. And this is why someone like me, I focus entirely on content. I don't
Yeah.
worry too much about engagement. And on a lot of those sites, they'll tell me, cool, you can charge like, I don't know, $100. And I'm like, not a fucking chance. Am I charging $100?
Yeah.
I would go hungry.
Yeah.
You know, and I know what I would charge for based on the type of content that I'm creating.
Yeah.
So it's not, I mean, it's a nice way of gauging based purely on your following and not on the content you're creating.
Yeah.
So it is a nice way of looking at it. There's a couple of those sites. There's Webfluential, there's a whole bunch of them.
And also that thing is based purely on you giving me your beer or you giving me a picture
Yeah.
and me putting it up on my account.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends. So you take a picture of your beer, you send me the picture, I post it, you pay me. That's the base level transaction that's involved. So it would be a much lower number because there's nothing taken into account of the labor costs of the costs of actually creating. So that's another mistake, is that, cool, if you're happy to post things, I'm not, but if you're happy to post other people's content on your page, that's cool, you get paid, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're going for a certain look and feel on a curated feed, you have to then add in the element of actually creating. So I would get a beer, I have to then go create an image around that beer and put it up on my social. I won't just say, cool, this is a cool beer, send me the images and I'll post it and talk about it.
Yeah. I do just want to make a quick segue to
The next beer.
the next beer because it's important. I'm actually doing it's 1 o'clock. And you know what we haven't done for a long time is the news. The news, we always, at 1 o'clock, we have the bullshit news. Let's just see if this works. There we go. It's now time for the news on hashtag Beer Time. Because Vibe FM. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. So Ross, you're a long listener of the show. This is where I read articles that I find, and I'm not taking a 180 segue, but this is a nice thing about what we're talking about. I read a few articles. The two articles I'm going to read today are, the first one is, you can check whether that craft beer is really craft beer with this app. And it goes on to say, in order to be classified as a craft beer, the Brewers Association requires the brewery making to be small, independent, and traditional. This means that while some brewers owned by companies like Anheuser-Busch might call themselves craft, they aren't. If you don't pay close attention, it can be hard to tell the big beer from the small guys when you're at the grocery store. Now there's an app for that. Okay, it goes on. There's an app which you scan, and it can
You scan the
identify.
beer.
You scan the beer label and identifies whether it's craft beer. Let me go to the next.
That's interesting.
The
Because
next.
that's an interesting topic. And I guess it's quite a controversial one in the beer.
Fucking phone doesn't want to fucking do this.
Like Newland Spring. Would you classify that as a craft beer?
Fuck off.
That's the answer.
No,
there we go. That's the answer.
I'm talking to my fucking phone. Excuse my language.
Ross, do you know what Newland Spring is?
To
I do
answer your
not.
question, yes.
I do not know what Newland Spring
Newland
is.
Spring is made at SAB Newlands. Yes, I'd say they're craft because
Yeah.
they're a small batch. They are doing different styles of beer.
Yeah.
They're not doing your mass-produced lager. They are
Yeah.
targeting towards the small niche market.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to interrupt, my flipping program, the Evernote, has just asked me to upgrade, and I can't seem to get out of it. I was going to read you another article. Well, that was just a shocker. These beer town things aren't. Let's just talk about that one article
It's
then.
all about
Yeah,
preparation.
so Newland Spring is basically SAB's craft beer initiative.
Okay. Cool.
But as far as I know, they have their own team and
There's nothing different from from starting a craft brewery and then getting purchased by a big guy. I still feel that you're still that small craft brewery. You just have a bigger network. You just have a bigger distribution. It's a lot easier to distribute and make your beer.
Yeah.
And it's happening all over the States now.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about mainly, without getting into too much topic about what is craft beer, I want to talk about how there are new apps and new systems in place for craft beer, and it's just a nice segue or pivoting off of what we're chatting about social media. How you've got this whole new craft beer movement and people creating beer apps.
Yes.
And I think it ties in nicely. Sorry for losing my words there, Dean. It ties in nicely with what you guys are doing with Insta Eats. So maybe you can just carry on there while I get the next bit.
Yeah. No, I think for me, I was actually I was chatting to Greg and Carl from. That looks awesome. You see, that's what I'm saying is look at that label. Like, look at that can design.
Look at that can, dude.
So I was chatting to Greg and Carl from Beer Country, and I said to them, like, because what we do at Insta Eats,
gentlemen, those guys are gentlemen.
They are kings, gods. So I was chatting to them because what we do on Insta Eats is every month we sort of choose different themes or topics in the craft beer industry to sort of focus our beers on. And I was saying to them, like, there isn't really a directory of beers in South Africa. So almost like you were saying, like an app where you could say, go look at the app for like different types of craft lagers, different types of craft IPAs, or scan the label and it tells you this is a lager made by this person and has this type of things, and so there isn't that type of directory and and it would be very useful, but I guess the market is changing so much. So I don't know if it's actually possible.
It is definitely possible. So what you could do, I'm actually building the website in my head as you speak.
This is great that we've got you guys on the.
I think that
I feel like we should sign like non-disclosures.
People listening.
You heard it here, but we
don't steal our ideas.
It's too late.
Yeah.
No, steal the idea.
Yeah, steal our idea.
But if you need more, come to us.
Yeah.
I think that it would be quite straightforward to do. All you would really need to do is you just get you do like a weekly email or a weekly whatever, and
sorted.
You get someone to upload it's going to be content capturing essentially, and all they would need to do is just send you like the updates of like, cool, this has changed, we're now doing this. It's obviously work from their side, but there has to be some sort of incentive. Yeah. Eventually, you can get to the stage where it's like, cool, you can advertise on the app.
Yeah.
Or you get, we do a promotion where,
Is the craft beer industry big enough for an app like that?
No.
You don't think so?
Not yet. Holger made a book 2 years ago with literally all the beers in South Africa at the moment, and I think a book was the wrong idea because the book just changes. The beers just change. The industry changes so quickly with new beers.
Is that like a Platter's wine guide sort of vibe?
No, it could have been. I think he just kind of put all the beers out there that were available, and I don't think he even gave his own tasting notes. It was just literally
a directory.
A directory of this is the beer, this is what it's made with, this is the brewery, this is the telephone number. That was it. It wasn't any personalized thing.
Yeah. The big issue is that it's changing too much. There are too many new additions. A book, as you say, is the wrong idea.
Guys, cheers.
Cheers.
Dean, do you want to read that label? What are we drinking?
Hell or High Watermelon, 21st Amendment Brewery, wheat beer brewed with watermelon.
Sure.
Now that
the brewery is called 21st Amendment Brewery.
Can you smell it?
Yeah, you can smell the watermelon definitely. But there's a very sweet, almost honey scent coming through there.
So where does that come from? That comes from the wheat.
The honey, of course. So I got it.
My first was like seawater.
Say again?
Seawater.
You pick up seawater.
Like a almost.
Well, it's funny you say seawater, so just hold that thought.
Like, when you're at the beach and you by mistake drink water, like drink,
yeah.
Like that. That's what I'm picking up.
I'm not picking that up.
Okay.
I'm picking more of a getting tackled into the rugby turf, and then you bunch of grass goes in your mouth.
Okay. Same sort of feeling, but
Yeah.
like, I'm not picking up the watermelon, but I'm not a big watermelon eater.
Oh, really?
drinker, so maybe that's.
It's more in the nose.
To be honest, I think that's a very brave move for them to do something like that. Because watermelon is not. I mean, watermelon is a very.
It's water.
Yeah, it's water,
So
and melon.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
But it's more water than melon.
Yeah, exactly. And
Actually, I think we're onto something.
but it does, there is a definite watermelon vibe coming through there.
Well, these guys have experimented. I mean, this is
So-
our first American beer that we're trying today.
Do you know more about? So who are these guys? Are they? is this-
21st Amendment. So if those of you who listen to the Brewing Network, which is a very big American podcast, the 21st Amendment sponsors some of their segments and sponsors some of the show prizes and stuff like that. So that's the only knowledge or info I have on 21st Amendments. But from what I know, they're from Brooklyn. Don't you just want to check there?
It says
Brewed in?
San Leandro, California.
Well, I was way
Well,
off.
there's-
Brooklyn, close enough. No, you were close.
Brooklyn.
Opposite, opposite end of the
But
America.
why is there a, what's it called? The
Let's have a look. The Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty and the Brooklyn Bridge.
Let's have a look.
Is it the Brooklyn Bridge or is it the? Is it not the San
The New York Bridge.
Francisco Bridge?
Maybe
It could be like a
the
cross.
Statue of Liberty walked all that way.
Yeah,
that's what
maybe.
I was gonna say.
And just had a little bit of a chill out session.
Yeah.
If you're
Because I-
listening and you don't know what we're talking about, basically the beer can has the Statue of Liberty, which is like fallen onto the bridge. Is that right?
She's sitting
She's
on the
more
bridge.
sitting.
She's sitting on the. Okay.
She's sitting. She's lifted her skirt. She's put a crown on to rest, and she's just kind of chilling. And
And it looks like the
Picking watermelon.
San Francisco Bridge.
okay, so we're in agreement that the Statue of Liberty has travelled halfway across
The country.
America. Speaking of which, America is amazing. I was just recently there. I was very fortunate enough to go to New York for a week, and then Toronto for a week. Oh, excuse me. And just, I mean, have you guys been to New York before?
I have never known.
I haven't.
There's just no words to describe
In terms of
New
craft
York.
beer or just.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything. You just get off and you arrive and you come up the subway and you just look up and there's just buildings that are just bigger than you've ever seen in your life before.
Yeah.
It's not even, Joburg doesn't even come close.
Yeah.
Cape Town's like a small little,
Fishing village.
exactly.
Yeah.
And our buildings here are not tall
Yeah.
compared to there. Like there, it's just like overboard, go big, go home.
Yeah.
The cars are big, everything's loud. You know, as I said, the buildings are big. It's an overload in stimulus. Yeah, I got a similar feeling when I was in Las Vegas a few years ago, where it's just like it's all visual into your eyes. But in New York, you've got the smell, you've got the sounds. Definitely a smell. I don't know what it is, but maybe some people can relate. When you go into a certain city, you definitely pick up like a certain smell. But New York is just, it's just massive. It's just awesome. There are no words to describe it, but overload of awesome.
And the craft beer scene is
Yeah.
just like.
As I was saying to Ross before the show, there's just too much.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't have to be beer. It can be anything you want to see.
Yeah.
Museums. For example, I read an interesting fact that if you had to visit every restaurant in Manhattan, now that's just the island of New York.
Yeah.
New York's based upon 5 different boroughs
Yeah.
or districts. And Manhattan, the island, is just one. If you had to visit every single restaurant in Manhattan and eat a different thing from their menu, so let's say you went for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and you had something different from their menu, it would take you something like 220 years.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. It's just the sheer size there and the number of people is just, you can't explain it. So onto the beer thing, it's just, I had a list, much to my wife's delight, of places that I had to visit. And I just had to, as I said to Ross again before the show, I had to actually just eliminate half of that because
Yeah.
I couldn't go to all of them. It's just so big.
Yeah.
And Also, I was saying to a friend the other night at the Braai, happy Heritage Day, by the way.
Yes, Happy Heritage Day.
I was saying to a friend at the Braai that when you go to that kind of beer industry, your level raises. All the beers go from an 8 or 9, or they go from South Africa maybe like a 7 or 8. They go from a 7, 8 to a 9 or a 10 score. You know,
Yeah.
so your perception of beer quality just gets elevated to another level. And actually, you're forced to maybe just drink 1 or 2 beers because it's bloody
And
expensive.
It's at like almost every restaurant or bar you can get craft beers, and it's not like people don't look at you weird and like.
No,
type of thing?
it's obviously you've got your KFC, Pizza Hut, you know, those kind of vibes, which, you know, they have their own stock standard things, but like all the pubs,
Yeah.
majority of the pubs have just a mixture. Some are more small, some are big, you know, some have limited editions. I saw a lot of Brooklyn Lager. Brooklyn Lager is quite big there in terms of craft beer.
You see, so when an industry is that big, then an app makes sense where you can
Yes.
sort of identify it. But I mean,
And it's also region specific.
Yeah.
Because the States is so big, that's another point I want to make, is that everything is times 10 there. Very similar to when I was in Russia, where you've got people living on top of each other.
yeah,
Your per capita, whatever it is just so much greater. So if you open a business, bar, or you want to sell a product, the chances of you selling it is just times 10.
Yeah.
You know, you can have a niche market over there, and you can actually, there are enough people to want to buy that thing.
yeah,
So, yeah, I think also with the craft beer there, it's very area specific. You can have your bigger guys like your Sierra Nevada, Dogfish, who else? Lagunitas. These
Yeah.
big guys who distribute nationally. But then, like the Brooklyn Lager, that's very area specific.
Yeah.
And if you go further down the coast, you know, you'll get the local brewery. So that's
yeah, sure,
that's the big difference there.
yeah.
I wonder if we'll get there in South Africa.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
I don't know.
It'll be great.
to get that. It's just like a whole culture thing, and I think the problem is that the majority of people still haven't accepted or like haven't gotten into craft beer, and the problem is that the majority of them never will because of because things like price play a huge thing in South Africa, whereas America, there's a lot bigger market are willing to, pay that sort of premium price. And things like also, I mean, like we've got a lot of, like the majority of people are sort of like the older generation refuse. Like I know my dad refuses to drink craft beer. Like you can give him any craft beer and he'll still go back to, to his lagers and, so that's the problem, is that there isn't a big enough, at the moment. I don't know if it might change, as people get older and, but it's going to take a long time.
A long time. You can also bring in other factors like economy of scale, the poverty line, and first world country versus third world country. But it is interesting. Like both my dads as well. Like it's. I said both my dads.
Yeah, it's like what?
Yeah, this is Cape Town, buddy.
Yeah.
My real dad and my stepdad, they love their SAB beers.
Yeah.
They will experiment once in a while with
If they're forced
craft
to.
beer. They'll never drink this watermelon beer.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
they'll never pay for a craft beer. Like
Well, I'll have to buy them a craft.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like if I get like something, my dad will like try it, but he'll never go to a restaurant and say, "Can I have a craft beer?"
Unless it's the only thing on the menu.
Unless it's the only thing on
And
the
it's a
menu.
lager.
Yeah, and it's a lager. Yeah. So that's I think that's the but it must be amazing to sort of see an industry like that in America. It must be overwhelming.
For those of you, it's so weird. It kind of feels like it's just us three talking sometimes, but I've got to remind myself that
It's us and the person listening.
it's just us three. I mean, for those of you listening who have been to the States, I mean, I'm sure you can agree with me that it's just another beast. And I mean, I just went to New York. I then went to Toronto afterwards, which is apparently the third biggest city in North America after New York, LA, and then comes to Toronto.
Wow.
But going from New York to anywhere just makes any city just look tiny.
Yeah.
Um,
So what's the Canadian craft beer industry like?
it's not as. It's probably a level down.
Yeah.
It's definitely. Also, just
Level down from us or New York?
Speaking of levels, like I always gave South Africa the benefit of the doubt. I was
Yeah.
like, no, we're not. People said we're 10 years behind America. I was just like, no, man, we're 2 years, 3 years maybe behind
Yeah.
America. Oh, I've got bad news, guys.
Yeah.
We are very
Yeah.
far.
In terms
away.
of what, though?
But in
quality,
yeah, quality
numbers,
numbers obviously, but
professionalism,
yeah.
marketing.
But take
if-
someone like this Devil's Peak. Like
Oh no,
would-
they can compete.
yeah, would they be able to compete in
Yeah, even then they're competing against
is it
established brands
Yeah.
or like dare I say it, more exciting.
Yeah.
If there can be such a thing, but in terms of South African level where we are, I'm afraid to say we're 5 to 10 years behind.
I just think it's a matter of time, though.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I mean,
yeah,
SAB.
We have grown quickly.
yeah,
We've definitely had a very nice head start in terms of how other craft
Well,
beers
there's definitely
nations grew.
There's definitely an interest in it. I mean, SAB proved that by they were bought. It was the biggest sale ever, ever in the world, ever. So that means South Africans know how to make and drink beer. So it's just a case of like making it happen and just
Yeah.
carrying on and doing more of this and drinking more beer and making more labels and adding watermelon into your beer.
Guys, we are making so much sense right now.
yeah.
I think let's finish up with this beer. What do you guys think? It was a nice to have beer. I wouldn't
Yeah.
particularly.
What is the base of it? Like, what is like? Is it
It's a wheat beer.
physically the base or
No, it says watermelon.
Mentally.
Yeah. So so it's a wheat beer.
So it's a wheat beer,
Okay.
and then they've obviously, well, I say obviously, but they've used. I'd imagine they would have used a lot of watermelon concentrates
Yeah.
towards the end of the brew.
Yeah.
But not too much. It's not like
not-
watermelon. It's just
Yeah.
like watermelon. Just
I like that description.
Yeah.
yeah,
All your flavored fruit beers should be gentle.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they got that right. And I think if you're really into that sort of thing and you want a bit of flavor in your beer, then that would be quite an easy beer to drink.
Less is
quite a
more.
lot of. Yeah.
To quote, is it Frank Garrity?
I don't know.
Oh my god! I think I just quoted one of my high school, my university friends, Frank Lloyd Wright. What's the architect?
But yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting between this and the Devil's Peak beers, where that has got quite a bit of fruit. This has got more subtle.
Ross, pull yourself towards yourself. Let's have our next beer. Guys,
Troy, I'm not quoting my old high school
High school
teachers here, bro.
Okay.
Ooh, so I
Wow.
saw the
Hey,
the
hey,
picture the picture you
shush your mouth.
posted on this on your before we started the show. I was very interested to see what this is.
Well, it's funny that Dean said he tasted seawater in the previous beer because this is a salt beer.
a salt,
A salt
beer.
beer or salt water?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you say that again, please, sir?
Salty. Salty beer. So this is a ghost style beer.
Ghost.
Ghost. Goat if you want.
Salty goat beer. No, I'll skip this one.
I don't want to tell you how it's made. No, it's a old school, old style German style sour beer, wheat style beer, where I think 50% is made with wheat malt, and it's a very salty beer. And I think some brewers actually use salted water.
Okay.
Interesting.
Let's read this one. This is
What is the name?
a citrusy, sour, delicious key lime pie by Westbrook Brewing Co. It is a sour ale brewed with spices and natural flavors. 4% alcohol. Westbrook Brewing Co. Mount Pleasant. SC. Where's SC? Sacramento? No.
Scandinavia.
Oh.
So this is from America, right?
This is America. And you know that every state has its own pie, apparently.
Did you know that?
Oh wow!
okay.
So what's New York's pie?
Oh, I don't know.
Pizza pie.
No, but it's not the pie that we think. It's like sweet pie.
Okay.
Cheesecake pie and
Okay.
apple strudel pie.
Apple pie.
So this, I'll read this in American accent. You want some pie and ghost? Well, here it is. Our classic ghost infused with the delicious flavors. I don't know why. Delicious flavors of key lime pie made extra special just for you. My mom always said
Okay,
it like
so
pie.
sour is.
I've never had key lime pie,
I don't
but
know.
also it's
Well-
not sweets.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, the other interesting thing is on this note is that like how prevalent it seems like the craft beer can industry is in America, because like here it's like,
I'm glad you picked it up.
you know, it's like a brand new
But
thing.
that's going to change here, though.
But
I'm
it has
pretty
to,
sure.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
can I tell you why I said, like me, the expert, that I'm just merely like,
Picking up on trends.
yeah, stabbing in the dark here. But I do think it's going to change because if you look at CBC and Union and
Give us some.
Devil's Peak,
Devil's Peak, it's all cans brew. And
Whoa,
Smell
Whoa,
it. You smell it
hectic,
first,
yeah.
eh? So what do you smell?
lime.
whoa, is that tequila, man?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
So you
yeah.
thinking,
This would go well with if you put tequila with this beer.
okay, so we smell
not-
some lime.
Yeah, I got Vim. I'm not
Yeah.
joking. I got a bit of Vim, but the lime flavored Vim.
Yeah,
you know,
the lime. Yeah, exactly. The
you know
powder.
Vim that you the
the
powdered
powder.
Vim?
Yeah, the powdered
green
Vim.
one.
Yeah, I got you.
I have no idea what you're
Well,
going
it's like sherbet, also like the lime sherbet.
So let's get a little sippy sip there.
Whoa! What? Oh, whoa!
Jeez.
Sherbet.
Welcome.
Literally sherbet.
That's sour, hey?
Jeez, like,
But
that
it's-
is crazy.
But guys, where's that sour taste now in your mouth? Is it still there or is it gone?
No, now it's becoming like lime, like pie, like lime.
It's guys,
like-
it's gone.
yeah,
This is a good beer.
yeah.
This is amazing because
It's amazing how big, like.
and you're gonna want
sour.
more. That first hit is intense.
Jeez, like this is crazy.
This kind of reminds me of the Stelli's beer, the ignoble one.
Ignoble Rot.
Rot, yeah. Which also like hits you in the first, and you're like, I need more of this. It's like,
So, I mean, this is delicious. This
is quite something. They
this is what
said
it says on the label: citrusy, sour, delicious.
lime pie, and they nailed it.
Yeah.
because it does have a. I
because you
don't know
get that sour, and then afterwards
Get
you
a
get
bit of
the,
a Brady character
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
base. Oh, it's just
So yeah, this is somewhere between like a, almost like a pale ale and what's that beer? What's
This-
the most
the-
famous like tequila? Not tequila beer, but
Corona.
Corona. Yeah, it's somewhere between like a Corona and a
Okay,
pale
I
ale.
suppose you could say you could get a pale ale and you could put a bit of squeeze of lime in there.
Yeah.
You could get a similar kind of taste if you had to do that.
This is also quite interesting on the can. It says best by 180 days from the date on the bottom of this can.
I've made that mistake before, where I've kept beer.
Maths.
No, but that's luckily on the bottom of that it's 8th of the 8th, so we're good.
Wow.
That is quite a thing. I mean, firstly, the can's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll make me buy it.
Yeah.
And then when you drink it, you're just like, why did I only buy 4?
Yeah.
Now, I might get into a bit of hot water here, but I have the best of intentions. From my experience and from what I've seen is that my sister and my wife have really enjoyed these sour beers, this watermelon beer that we had previously, this lime beer that we just had now.
Okay.
It's something that they enjoy. Now I know I'm going to get a bit of appeal from the
The
the-
sex.
the wonderful ladies at She Loves Beer, because they kind of argue that no, everyone should be able to enjoy every type of beer. Doesn't matter what style of beer and what your sex is. But I can't help but just talk about and shake the fact that my sister and my wife and a good portion of females gravitate towards this beer.
Yeah. Or fruit beers.
Fruit beers or this. I mean, this is a salty sour beer. I mean, that's just. I can't believe that my wife is drinking more sour beer than me. That I'm jealous. So it's
But also, I
it's
think
it's a tightrope. I don't want to get
Yeah.
into trouble, like I said. but it's something to note and something to point out to South African brewers out there and to people who want to expand the markets and stuff like that.
But we do need more beers like this. That's the.
And I'm not saying that just girls are going to drink this. I'm
Yeah.
going to be the first person in line to buy this beer. But this is like you said, Dean. This is what we need.
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
I noticed that none of you have stepped into that territory.
No,
You guys are not
just
touching that.
We're just gonna sit here quietly and
drink the beer.
Also, what I also find interesting was the beer label. The name of the brewery is not the key point of the beer, which is quite advanced in terms of because a lot of and Devil's Peak are probably also like a prime example of that, where it's like you don't even see the Devil's Peak on the on the
the front of
bottle,
the label, yeah.
So it's like where the sort of traditional thinking is like front and center, big, and everything else is sort of small.
I think everyone's got their own different way of marketing. You've got one that comes to mind is the Stellies, like you said, the
Yeah.
Stellies labels. They all got the same generic template, and then a few things change, like the outside color will change, or
Yeah.
add something different in the middle,
Yeah.
but it's still recognizable.
Yeah.
And that works for them. And then you've got other places like, I'm trying to think of who else in South Africa is
You
very,
look at like
very
Fraser's.
unique.
Fraser's with his
Yeah.
paper.
That's still kind of, you could argue that that's kind of uniform. It's all the same.
Yeah.
Jack Black used to do it really well with their screen printing glasses.
Yeah.
All their bottles were different artworks.
Yeah.
They had like you said, they had a small Jack Black logo at the top.
Yeah. Have you done a show on labels?
I touch on it every show. I think that's the thing I get worked up the most about.
Yeah.
Is bad labels.
And good labels. I mean, I've been here twice, and we haven't had really. Well, aside from I'm probably going to get looked at funny if I say this, but
The beer that I bought, my beer.
no, the yellow label one, that crazy the Dutch or the Holland and Devil's Peak one, the leopard.
Oh yes, the Mikella.
Yeah, the Makela. That was very out there. I mean, that looked like.
But funny enough, that is a massive. Mikella's a massive an international brand.
Yeah.
And that artist is unique to that brand.
Yeah, and that's all well
And
and good.
if you can collaborate as a brewery, I'm just inputting here. If you can collaborate with that brewery and have that artwork on your label, you're doing something right. We should call this the Devil's Peak Show. I'm just gonna actually message them and just say, guys.
Anyway, thoughts on the beer? I think that I would definitely buy this. I would if it's summer, and you out on the beach or you are at a picnic or something and it's a really hot day, buy yourself some of this.
Yeah.
So, okay, firstly, Troy, can we get any?
Yeah,
of this
that's
here?
actually my next question.
It's useless. We're going. Oh,
Yeah.
if you're listening and you need a nice summer beer, you need to go get some of this Westbrook Brewing Co.
Is
Key
there
lime pie something.
Are there any brewers? I mean, any bottle stores that are importing overseas craft beers besides from Belgian beers, obviously?
Not as much as we need.
Yeah.
This is perhaps the good thing about SAB getting acquired by Anheuser-Busch, in that we should get some of Anheuser-Busch's Highline. I should say Anheuser-Busch InBev, AB InBev. We get in some of their Highline products.
Do they do craft? They have a craft.
They've got a mass. They've bought so many
Okay.
craft breweries, good craft breweries, and I mean, if some of those beers make their way over here, I'm going to be very
Yeah.
happy. But yeah, we don't unfortunately have enough.
I guess craft beers are already expensive, and they'll probably land at even more expensive.
But
Do they have to be that expensive though?
I think if they get made in the States and they're coming all the way here, yes.
And here?
And sometimes they don't even come directly; they go through England.
Okay.
Because there's certain. I know from the last time I checked, there's certain distributors, international distributors, who operate, and the last bunch of American beers we got in South Africa came from Europe. So that just shows you where they have to go
Yeah.
to. And
Even like
but just to think about this.
a league of beers
Sorry to
tasting
interrupt. If you got, would you pay 60 Rand for a beer that's a 9 or 10 out of 10? Or would you pay 40 Rand for a beer that's a 6 or 7?
the problem is that you don't know that it's a 9.
Yeah.
You know, like
No, sure. You'd have to, someone would buy that and you'd
yeah,
share it.
yeah.
Or I would say, no, you have to have this beer. And
Yeah.
then you'll try it and you're like, oh my word.
But that's where legal beers could come in. You know,
Yeah.
if they did like a tasting league with American beers, a mixed case type thing.
Tasting league. If only we had a tasting league. I hope you guys are bloody well listening.
I think that it also
League of-
depends
we do
on.
have a tasting league.
Yeah,
It
the
depend-
league of beers mixed case of like American and overseas beers. That could be quite interesting. But it would be
I
expensive.
can say through the voice of Rob Haynes that yes, we are trying it.
Okay.
And I just kind of disagreed there with you. And
Yeah.
so let's hope that Yappy Chef and League of Beers put together a nice mixed case from international beers.
Yeah, that
They
would be,
have done something similar, but as you said, I'd like more American
Yeah.
beers.
And also, if you're listening and you want to start making beer, just start making the fucking beer because we need people. We need more people to make beer. That's
And
what we need.
take
That's
it-
the only way that this is going to get bigger.
Just
and
to
take note
interject,
from the international beers, copy those styles, make
Exactly.
them exactly.
just to interject then, if I could give my 2 cents to people starting a brewery now, or wanting to start a brewery in South Africa,
Start a brewery or start making beer.
either
Okay.
commercial, start
Yeah.
making commercial beer. You need a trained brewer.
Yeah,
You need someone who knows how to make beer. I don't care how many homebrew competitions you won. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean jack.
Okay. Can I ask? Can I ask?
You
a
need
question
someone
quickly?
who's got the formal training,
Yeah.
who knows how to make big
batches,
how
yeah.
to upscale recipes, and to make big batches on a commercial level, and who knows how to deal with troubleshooting.
How many of the bigger craft breweries at the moment have an international brewer?
An international brewer.
Well, someone who's you said someone who's a trained brewer or a highly qualified brewer.
you can't get that training here.
Let's go through them a little bit.
Okay, I'll mention a couple. I mean, I don't know all of them.
CBC?
but CBC, yes,
Jack Black.
yes.
Devil's Peak have JC. He's a winemaker by trade, but he still has some formal education on fermentation, which
Okay.
counts a hell of a lot more than anything. Rory from Ager.
Yeah.
Um,
Jack Black, Devil's Peak, Darling.
Darling, I know that they had a German brewmaster, but not anymore. So I'm trying to think who they have there.
Did he not train someone?
And I know that there are 2 breweries in the Franschhoek area who trained under Wolfgang from CBC as under an apprenticeship,
Oh, yeah.
which is, again, still
Yeah.
a lot more than anyone.
Yes.
But guys, I've kind of stopped short there, and I can't think of anyone else.
Okay, but no, but I think that kind of proves the point because those are the most well known
I said Rory. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
from Ager. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the most well known, or the bigger brewing houses at this stage, are the people that have professional brewers making the beer.
yeah.
Correct.
Do you agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get an anomaly anyway in anything, but so all you're saying is that if
Oh,
they
and
are
besides, obviously, SAB, the
Yeah.
Newland Spring, and I know there's a new one, Noongun on
Yes.
Muizenberg.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've got ex-SAB
Yeah.
brewers
okay, so and meaning they are trained brewers.
trained.
Okay, so SAB brewers are trained brewers. That's,
Yeah, no, it's the only place to get trained in South
but
Africa.
those are like chemical engineers and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you do want to start making your own beer, but also like how does someone, like, let's say there's someone who is extremely passionate about making beer, and they really want to make their own beer, and they really want to take it to a commercial level.
Some
At
of
what
the
point?
some of the advice that I got way back when I started, and I always, as you said, Dean, I said challenge accepted. They said no, you can't be the brewer and the marketer.
Okay.
You cannot do two.
Which makes sense.
And I thought, no, I want to be that all-encompassing person, but it is definitely something that I've seen in the last 5 years of being in this industry. You can't be everything.
Yeah.
You have to either have a team, or you can be a boss, but you have to focus on one thing.
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention Noongun, because they've started the right way. Proper facility in place, proper brewer in place, proper marketing, from my point of view. Their beers are good.
I would argue that you can't always tick the right boxes. Yeah, it's like having 3 points and you can only choose 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would argue that they perhaps didn't start the right way on social media in
Okay.
terms of a marketing
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But that's just me.
Yeah. No, I would agree on that.
And if they want some advice, then they're welcome to call me
Yeah.
for a fee.
Yeah. But yeah, they've started well. But I mean, it's. I guess there's also a lot of people don't really. Wow, that is cool. A lot of people don't start.
Got some cool labels today.
Yeah,
eh?
it's like Ross designed them. But a lot of people also don't start. I don't think a lot of people start with the foresight of saying, I'm going to make a commercial beer.
But you look, okay, I'm going to step in here and say, I never intended of ever becoming an origami artist.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I am. And that's what I do for money. That is my living.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just think that with anything, obviously right now I've had to learn quite a lot about, the art in order to become like an origami designer and design stuff and, do the whole thing. But relating that to making beer or making anything for that matter, I do think that if you are willing to just put in the time and really do maybe you need some specific training, but there is obviously some sort of education that you need to go through, or educational process that you need to go through in order to learn how to do all that stuff correctly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just going to, it's like, oh, I made exactly what you're saying, Troy, like, oh, I made a really rad, homebrew batch, 10 months in a row. And then they're like, well, cool, can you turn that into a bigger batch? And you're like, yeah, I can. And then it's a flop.
Yeah.
But there's learning in that. Like, you have to know how to do that. And obviously there's money involved and whatever. But I do think that if you are really into it and you really want to get it going, then you'll make it happen regardless. My thoughts.
And we appreciate your thoughts here on #BeerTime.
But right now we're going to drink some Miami Vice beer. What the hell is going on
It's
there?
not Miami Vice.
It's got a very Miami
it
Vice.
does have a bit of a Grand Theft Auto kind
Grand
of
Theft
vibe.
Auto, that's what I was going for, yeah.
It's a very well-known American brewery called Prairie Artisan Ales. This is their Paradise, an imperial stout brewed with coconut and vanilla.
What?
Ooh.
What?
I feel like
Troy, it's like, have you been hiding these away for the last
Yeah.
3 years?
No.
Did we get into this, how you got these beers into the country?
We don't want to know.
I was picking up hints of that, okay, so it makes sense now.
Uncomfortable. Yeah,
It
it's-
makes
That way you
sense
walked
now.
in here quite funny.
Let's
Yeah.
just say that I was leaning against that trolley and at the airport, just letting the trolley do all the work. Do you guys want to have? This is an
No,
an
I'm
imperial
done.
Yeah, I
stout.
think I'm good now.
I'm good, all right.
yeah.
An imperial
thank
stout. So imperial stout. You guys want to have a crack at what that means?
I know exactly what it means. Go for it, Dean. Do you
I
want to go?
know. You can go for it.
So imperial, I found out recently, means it's just got a lot of fucking kick.
Okay.
That's all, a lot of
In
hops
terms of alcohol,
and hops. yeah.
sweetness, everything.
Is the bottle dark or is the beer dark?
What's that? What was that key line? What is the alcohol in that one?
4.
4.
The whole high water was also about 5. The most we had was
4,
a 7%
4.9, yeah.
with the Devil's Peak IPA.
But yeah,
This one,
9.
13.
What?
Woo!
Jeez, that's
Yeah.
like a Sauvignon Blanc. We got a
Yeah.
Shiraz going on.
Yeah, and this is why I saved it for the end. But guys, this is.
But also, is the bottle dark or the beer dark?
Should we even open it now? Let's not open it now.
No, let's not.
yeah.
No, let's open it now.
We'll see now when you empty it.
So was I right, Troy? Imperial means that it's stronger in a specific,
Alcohol.
just strong in alcohol. But an imperial IPA is generally more hops, is it not?
Stout.
I'm saying, but like imperial, if you call it an imperial something,
Yes, but in terms of imperial across the board, in terms of beer, yes, if it's specifically towards a style, sure, it depends on that style. But if you just say imperial, it is the higher alcohol.
content.
With an imperial stout, you know that it's going to be a lot thicker, sweeter. It's going to be aged probably. If it's an imperial IPA, yes, it's going to have a bitterness on there that just rips away the enamel on your teeth.
Okay, cool.
On that note, let's have.
The Grand Theft Auto Miami Vice.
Now we've got some
Prairie.
key lime pie in this old glass. I'm trying to get it out. But with the 13% beer, I don't think that should be a problem.
Wow, that is dark.
Can just
Just want to pour a little bit more.
Dark like my heart.
brew. That's brew.
So look how thick that is.
What? That.
Look how dark the head is.
But look how dark the head is. So why?
The head is like a brown.
So generally, when you pour a Guinness, the head is like very light, but the beer itself is quite dark. Because Guinness is actually quite a light beer. Like
Guinness
light
is very,
stout.
Guinness is very light.
So-
So be aggressive with the pour. Yeah, there we go. Let me. You can finish the rest in here.
You clearly don't have to go to work later.
Yo, on the nose, it's
So,
hectic.
so what are you smelling, guys?
Whoa. Okay, so
Um,
Marmite.
Marmite,
I'm getting
that's
fucking
it. Yeah, Marmite.
straight
This
up
is
Marmite.
Marmite. Is there Marmite in the
Okay,
beer?
it's not. Yeah, some people might get
Okay.
put off by the word marmite, but it's definitely like a savory,
Umami.
meaty.
Savory
Yeah.
yeast extract
Yeah.
something.
So
But
what else can you smell? Don't
chocolate.
don't drink
There's
it just yet. It's-
very, 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 very dark chocolate. That's like a 99%.
Yeah,
mint
you can
I'm getting.
Yeah.
you can pick up, and that's probably coming from the vanilla and the coconut that they use. But it's just getting that.
Yeah. I'm not picking up any coconut.
No, but it's that roasted coconut. Have you ever had like they take the coconut I want to say shards, not shards, just like it's
Flakes.
very flakes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they roast them. It's got that sort of vibe coming through. But yo, that is. It's something.
You could just sniff this whole beer.
Yeah.
And you must
Snort it.
don't drink it all. Just you'll find that as it warms up, it also changes a bit of its character.
Okay, here we go.
Yo, that's like a man.
Whoa.
It's very creamy. No, it's actually not that creamy. I'm talking shit. It's quite.
So obviously the first thing you pick up that alcohol,
Yeah.
but it's just like a thick tar sliding down your throat. It's just there's some bubbles there, but it's like a chocolate syrup. It's like a beer syrup.
But it is that's quite a thing, eh? I mean,
This is a vibe.
cannot operate heavy machinery after
Yeah.
drinking one of these.
Yeah.
And just one.
Thank God you're not operating heavy machinery. You
Thank
struggle
God.
to pick up that paper.
I've got to fold paper later. This is it's not going to happen.
This is heavy.
Yeah. So would you kick?
Dean,
the,
what would you
what would you
give
pair?
you a
What
th-
would you pair this with food wise?
A Marmite sandwich.
No,
Marmite
you-
and cheese sandwich.
So with pairing, you'd
Definitely
either
not, no.
compliment or contradict
Yeah.
the food choices. So I would maybe give this to a
Fish and chips.
no. I would give this to something very
Almost like a chocolate mousse, I
like
think,
a,
would.
or a crusty pie, like with
Yeah.
chocolate mousse pie, if there's
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where it's very sweet.
Yeah.
Um,
But also savory.
But yeah, this has got vanilla, this has got coconut, and it's going to
Yeah.
kind of pair well with that.
This is the strong. I'm not going to lie. It is just
no,
based purely on alcohol percentage and thickness and color and whatever is the richest beer
Yeah.
I've ever had
Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah, you have to walk home after this.
Yeah. So, like, do you think there's people that will buy a 6-pack of this and just slam it?
As you said, America, bigger and.
I don't know. I don't know where does this beer fit in? This is what I'd like to know. Like,
buy a 6-pack, share it with 5 friends.
but what situation? You know, it's like 'cause it's not like you're like, hey guys, listen, we're having steak dinner. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get some of these. Maybe you have one of these, but like, at what point? How does?
Almost like an after dinner beer.
There's after dinner beer. You I would never crack this open on my own, ever.
Yeah.
That's just me, but I'm pretty sure that perception is shared by a lot of other beer people. because I want people to try this 13% beer. It's something that you don't get. And if you do have it on your own, and you're listening, I know you know who I'm talking about, then screw you. No, but this is the beer that you are going to share. You're going to buy one of. If you buy this in the store, this is a 340ml bottle. I'd imagine you'd spend 100 to 120 rand on this beer.
And you can get 10 shots out of it.
Yeah, it's
You might as well be drinking shooters, man. Let's be honest. You'd be like, cool, okay, guys, we're doing coffee shooters after this.
But it is a really intense beer, and it's. I always say beer is very dependent on the occasion, on where you're drinking.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, if it's a hot day and I'm by the pool, I'm going to be chugging some Castle Light Lime. I'm sorry, you heard it here on hashtag beer time. But if it's cold, like apparently it's cold today. It's meant to be 13, but
no, it is cold
if
today.
it's cold, if it's rainy, if it's wet, and we're making like a lamb pie or followed by a moose pie, then
We're just having pie.
I'm not going to have some pie. Then this is what we're going to be drinking. And
drink slowly
I would share it with friends.
Yeah, 17 friends. One
Sure.
bottle.
One bottle.
That's
17.
enough.
But
it's
I remember
interesting-
when I was president of the Southeast Homebrewing Club, no one gets paid there. But what I did one year at the end of my term, I think I bought everyone a bottle of BrewDog 18% Heaven Hill.
Okay, so
which
you,
is a
you do
Paradox
get
Heaven
the-
Hill.
You do
Yeah,
get
you-
those around.
Oh no, you get. I think BrewDog made a 54%
Beer.
beer, which
What?
is that's like you pour a little shot and you sip it.
Well, 54% is more than
It's more like a
most
whiskey.
whiskeys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's that kind. It's a gift beer. This is an imperial stout. Is a
A
beer.
gift to-
Yeah, it is.
To yourself.
yeah.
Happy birthday.
You
But
made it through the meal. Here we go.
You wouldn't. Yeah, if you're a brewery and you wouldn't rely just on this beer.
Yeah.
You wouldn't survive on just
Yeah,
this beer
yeah,
if you
yeah.
made this beer. This is definitely a specialty beer. that you
Limited
would make.
edition.
Limited edition.
Yeah.
If you are fortunate enough to make this on a constant basis, then good for you. But yeah,
So do you think?
to own a brewery, you need something that's going to turn and go and be a money maker.
Yeah, I mean this is not going to sell a lot of beers. I mean, let's be honest. Based purely on human and like biology, you cannot have too many of these.
And based
by
on the
yourself.
unique factor that it's not a beer that people perceive as a, inverted commas beer.
Yeah, and yet you'll have people that drink like a stout. So this is a stout on ale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stout. So you get guys who have a Guinness,
Remember,
2-3 Guinnesses every
Stout
night.
falls within the ale category.
category, yeah, because it's darker. All right,
You get your lager and your ales.
that's where
Just
the
like-
split happens.
That's where the split's like red wine and white wine. So your ales use a bottom fermenting yeast with, top fermenting yeast where it's warmer. That's the ale. Lager uses cold fermenting yeast, so the yeast sinks to the bottom.
Aha.
So there's two types. You
And-
can get hybrids, but generally within those two family trees, you get different substyles. So stout falls within the ale category.
Okay, and you're right about as this beer gets warmer, you can start tasting the more like there's like way more vanilla and
Yeah.
coconut coming through here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
trying to warm it up as much as
Yeah,
possible.
no, me too. I'm
Dean
actually,
is chugging it. He's just
you
like
smashed that. Where's your beer
knocking
gone?
it
No,
back.
I didn't have as much as you guys.
Keep your shirt on, man.
Well, you did. You just don't have any more.
But yeah, it's definitely changing. It's definitely changing as it warms up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we're having this. Can you imagine if we had this in the beginning? I'm struggling to speak now, but
Yeah.
we would.
I can't feel my lips. It's
Guys.
good though.
It's a really good beer.
It's
though.
very complex.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot going on. Generally, like if you have anything that has a very high alcohol percentage, you'll have some, and it just really just destroys everything. You just like
Well, that's also why it's
alcohol.
kind of like the last thing you should be
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
for a week.
before you sleep.
I'm sorry that our show finishes at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yeah. Like literally, I'll probably be out till next week's show. Like,
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can't. If I had to start with that beer and then go on to anything else, it would be an absolute waste because you just
Yeah.
wouldn't pick up anything. You wouldn't taste anything.
Yeah.
And generally, wow, the
you'd struggle.
Man, I've got like maybe 3 or 4 more sips here, and the coconut is just coming through more and more and more. It's crazy. I got it.
I knew
and,
you.
and also, generally, you would start like, I mean, if you are doing, if you, let's say I go out to a beer, Troy, a braai, sorry, and I want to have
You're
a
hammered.
whole array.
You're wasted.
I've
I've
had
never been to
couple.
a beer before.
Have you guys ever been to a beer? It's
And
great.
you go to a beer and you take a braai.
Yeah.
I know what
You
you
drink a braai at a beer.
Anyway, you get to the braai and you're like, okay, cool.
Please
I'd
continue.
like to. You want to try a whole bunch because this happens to me often, and maybe I'm speaking just for myself here. But if you're listening and you're not sure how this happens, Troy's going to explain it
Oh,
to us.
God.
You want to try a whole bunch of craft beers, okay?
And you've got a speedo and you want to swim, but you're not sure.
Yeah, that as well. But you also want to enjoy the day. But you also don't
Okay.
want to. You don't want to. You don't want to start with
You don't wanna
something like
drown.
this paradise, this prairie stout, and knock yourself for a 6 by the after the first beer. So, what 2 beers do you buy yourself that will last you the whole day, and how much do you buy of it?
So, if I'm getting this right, you're at a pool braai party. Sorry, at a beer.
You get
party.
that 3.
Yeah.
You get that 3. You want to leave at 10, and you want to drink the whole day, but you don't want to be motherless.
Well, if it was me, I'd buy a few session beers of the
Okay.
same type.
And session meaning?
Session I can have 6 of.
Okay.
So I'm thinking now I'd buy some Pilsner Urquell,
Uh-huh.
which is a malty and hoppy Pilsner from the Czech Republic. I'd probably buy a 6-pack of that as a little treat. If it's the end of the month and I don't have money, I might buy a 6-pack of Tafel,
Okay.
which is pretty good. And then if I've
And you would start with that. That's what
yeah,
you would drink.
no, but that's what I'd go through those 6 and just drink with everyone. And then if things slow down, people start moving on to the whiskies or the brandy and cokes, then I might take a bit of a detour and get out that special IPA.
Okay.
Because also, after drinking anything of the same beer, if you drink 6 of the same beer,
Gets boring.
it gets boring, and it
Yeah.
keeps tasting. It tastes the same.
Yeah.
And especially when you're going to start eating food, like if you're at a braai and you're having like fatty sausage or chops or anything like that, you need something to cut through that fattiness. Because otherwise, I mean, I'm sure you guys have experienced it. You sit down at the table, you've had a few beers, you sit down at the table, you start eating your food, the sausage, I'm getting hungry now, the chops, whatever, and then you take a sip of your lager. It just tastes like
Yeah.
fizzy water.
That's
Yeah,
water,
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
what am I
Exactly,
even
yeah.
doing drinking this stuff? So that's where you need the intensity to increase with your maltiness, your bitterness. Also depends on what kind of food. But generally speaking, with that braai food, there's a bit of fat in there. So you need that intense hoppy oils to come and cut through it.
So you'd have so you go like Pilsner Urquell or a light lager or whatever for the beginning of the day, and then either move on to an IPA, and then maybe if you're feeling really sort of experimental, like a stout or porto or something.
Yeah, if it's getting nippy or something like that. But if it's still a hot summer's day, I probably will stick with an IPA and just end on an IPA really, because I wouldn't really have a dark stout. Nothing like screams at you, ooh, let's have a dark stout on a
Yeah.
nice hot summer's day. It's just
Yeah.
not going to happen.
A dark stout is generally like a 1 beer after work sort of thing.
Yeah, if
Or-
it's,
yeah.
and if it's cold or whatever like that.
I'm just asking because
yeah.
I need to learn these rules.
We'll practice. How about we practice?
Look, I'm practicing right now.
We'll go to a beer. I'll bring the braai, and we can see how things go. You got to bring your own beer though.
Bring your own braai.
Bring your own beer, braai. Guys, can you believe it? It's almost that's almost the show.
Jeez. That did go quickly.
Like I told you, it goes quickly, and we still got some beer left. But this has been delicious.
Dean still asked. Like,
Dean, I want to just go. I know you wanted to say something quickly. You've got some event happening at Newlands. Do you want to talk about that very quickly? Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah.
Just go for it quickly.
Okay, so we got a market happening at the brewery, the field there, on the 8th of October.
SAB Newlands Field.
Yeah, that's it. And we're gonna have the Newlands Spring beers on tap the whole day, and we've got a bunch of food stalls. Inside Your Out Burgers, the Pokey Code, Jazzy's Pizza, we've got the candy shop doing all sorts of ice creams and things. N2 ice cream, so we got Schecter's Raw for the vegans. So a lot of good stands, good beer. Obviously it's free entrance. It's Sunday market, Sunday 8th of October. Starts at 9, ends at 3, but it will probably go on later if the day is going well. And yeah, free entrance, come with the family. It's the day after the Newlands test, so hopefully we'll be celebrating, not mourning. But either way, we can drink.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Cool. Now I'm looking forward to that. I'll definitely be there.
Yeah, it should be a good day out.
I'll be there with my bib on because I know I'm going to eat a lot of food.
Nice way to kick off summer, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to summer. I think it's going to be a good summer. I think it's definitely weird with not having as much rain as we've had, but it's going to be a good summer. I think.
Yeah.
Russ, your parting words as we say goodbye.
Just careful of the prairie.
Prairie dog.
The prairie dog.
If anyone
paradise.
offers it to you before the evening,
Listen, guys are going to be walking down Long Street going like, yeah, you want some prairie?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, I'm good. No, listen, thank you, Troy, for having me once again on the show. Every time I come onto the show, I learn something. I always leave tipsy. It's beautiful.
What could be better?
you leave filled with tips and tipsy.
Tips, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, guys, I don't even think I got through everything that I wanted to say, but it just shows you how much fun I've had on the show. So to our listeners out there, thank you very much. I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us ramble on about beer and, let's not deny it, getting drunk in the studio. But we've got some awesome shows lined up. Got some cool guests lined up for the rest of the year. Got some cool beers. I didn't just bring back these 3 beers. I've got some other beers that I had to smuggle in. But yeah, to everyone listening, thank you very much for listening. We will see you again next week. Mr. Dean, Mr. Ross,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Bruce.
That's it for episode 6, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to get in touch or leave a comment, then please do so on social media. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next show. Cheers.